Just a week ago, this channel put out a video calling the rough bottom in GPU pricing. I stated that, well, I expect some cards like the RTX 4080 to continue to drop in price a tad, that overall, especially on the Radeon side, you should expect most cards to get drastically cheaper than the craziest sales that we've seen recently. And now I do feel the need to beat my exact point into the ground. It would not surprise me, people, if you got some open box RX 7900 XT for like $750 or a tab below $700 in a couple months, or you managed to snag a 7900 XTX on Black Friday for like $790. But that's roughly where the floor is that I pointed out a week ago. That wouldn't surprise me. It's roughly there already, though. It's the floor. You might get a deal like I just said, but don't expect to get some 7900 XT for $550 in a couple months. That's not going to happen. The price decreases are mostly done for these types of cards. I only expect things like the 4080 to keep dropping a little bit. And you know, a week after putting that video out, if I look around, yep, it looks like prices are up a bit all of a sudden. I called it correctly. And I need to remind all of you before I get to the big leaks of this video why this is happening. It's a few reasons. Number one, demand is legitimately picking up. And recent earnings from AMD and Intel show that this is true. It's a fact. Demand is picking up. Also, I would say another reason is that, well, I think that some of these graphics cards, like an XTX below 900 or a 7900 XT below 800, legitimately hit the price point gamers actually wanted the entire time, and that's why they're selling better now. But also, there was another reason. Supply being throttled by some companies. And, well, that's mostly what this video will be about. A certain company throttling supply more than I had anticipated a week ago, and I think you all deserve to know this. You see, it seems that Nvidia is deciding to double down on a point of view that I highlighted in a video this year, that they really do want to become an AI-first company, and thus, while they will continue to make gaming cards forever, they think their gaming cards are supposed to cost more than what we've been used to in the past, and if you don't like those prices, take them or leave them. And if you leave them, they don't care. They might not make that many of them anymore anytime demand goes down. And in fact, if you look on screen right now, you can see a quote from one of the sources that before I started recording this video gave me the okay to quote them. This person says that they aren't really selling that many 4080s and 4090s in general, that demand for these cards is not what it was last holiday season, but that there are still legitimately a handful of people that come in every week and ask for these graphics cards, but sometimes they don't have them now. They just aren't being supplied more than sometimes a couple 4090s a week, even though they suspect, and I've called some warehouses that say this is true, there are warehouses of 4080s and 4090s that are only allowed to trickle out so many cards every week. That supply is being artificially restrained, and that they don't hear they will be getting a lot more cards soon, so that this constraint is there so that things don't sell out and lower prices before Nvidia wants them to. And yeah, that's because Nvidia is all but entirely ceasing production on a lot of the gaming products people wish were just that little bit cheaper. And I want to get you guys some pretty incredible quotes here from some of my sources, and also go into if AMD is really able to exploit this opening and lower production at all. And that includes some leaks about Navi 32. But first, an ad from a sponsor. Getting your daily vitamins can be tricky. Sometimes it can feel like you're just shuffling from green thing to green thing from dusk till dawn in the hopes that you'll feel healthier tomorrow while you chew down things that taste like trees. But not me, at least not anymore. I drink AG1 by Athletic Greens. This piece of content is brought to you by the nutritional drink AG1. If you're a fan of Moore's Law is Dead, I am sure you'll have noticed that I tend to release videos and record podcasts late into the night whenever duty calls. And that used to mean drinking coffee well past 8 p.m. in order to stay alert. Well, I didn't really mind doing that. It would often leave me staying up later than usual as my mind raced until I finally got tired and fell asleep at like 4 or 5 a.m. But now, as I'm sure you've noticed in recent Broken Silicons, I just drink AG1. And that's because it's a tasty daily micro habit that makes it easy for you to absorb key nutrients, lead a healthy lifestyle, and feel your best, no matter what the day or night holds. And no matter if you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, AG1 is all of those things. Use my link below to get a 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D3K2 and 5 travel packs free with your first purchase. Even just clicking on the link helps the channel a ton, and trying out Athletic Greens through the link yourself helps even more. Seriously, try it, guys. This one is tasty and it actually does work. It's not like those other stupid supplement drinks. I actually do like it and have noticed it works. Support Moore's Law is Dead and support your health by getting AG1 through the link below today. All right, so let's just go right into these Nvidia Lovelace production testimonials. These are a handful of some of the quotes that really spurred me into making this video. Source number 1 at Nvidia says that they have all but stopped production of RTX 4000 GPUs. Technically, they are keeping lines open for each SKU. They are making some of them every month, but this is because they have contracts with TSMC that basically forces them to do this from time to time. They can't entirely shut down production, or will they be penalized? And I don't really want to get into why they have to do that, but they do. And so, in effect, although you could technically argue they're still being produced, Lovelace production is essentially in hibernation, while Nvidia literally shifts as much 4nm capacity as they can to make Hopper. Now, another source tells me, who buys professional cards for a large company, says that they've been informed that A100, this is the Ampere predecessor to Hopper, and effectively all of Nvidia's other low-end AI offerings based on disabled Ampere and other gaming cards and stuff, that they are being discontinued, and that they should expect some of the professional GPU supply to become challenging soon. Well, unless you want to buy Hopper, that supply should be improving soon, and those will cost 3 to 5 times as much as the A100s. Some companies would prefer to buy at a lower price. A lot of people are unhappy about this. And then a third source tells me that, yeah, Nvidia is swapping as much capacity as they can to H100, while reducing production of all other 4nm products, and also basically stopping production of 8nm and other products you have to buy H100. But this person wanted to remind me that as far as they are aware in distribution, from what they've seen, Nvidia's already made at least a year's worth of Lovelace already. And they're probably looking at bad sales and going, yeah, look, we might have enough GPUs for this entire year anyways if we constrain supply, so why would we make more graphics cards that could lower our prices when we can just force everybody to buy Hopper instead? And so, yeah, there you go. Basically, Nvidia is watching the 4090 hovering around MSRP on online retailers, and the 4080 continue to drop well below MSRP, while even other cards like the 4070 Ti start drifting below MSRP, and they're saying, yep, we've had enough of that. Let's move everything to Hopper, and then also stop other professional and AI card production so that everybody has to buy that Hopper too, so that we can keep our earnings in the black, even though computer sales are just down. Now, to be fair, I think I would point out, and a lot of people watching this are probably pointing out, what else do you expect them to do? They have a responsibility to their shareholders. That's just a good business decision. But it is unfortunate for gamers, and it does mean that even if Radeon prices have gone down some, they've rebounded a bit, they're not going to be forced as low as you might think they're going to if Nvidia just doesn't bother to compete in graphics cards when the market is down. Some other people might point out, well, if the AI bubble pops, that could cause them a lot of trouble. Aren't they really just moving all of their eggs from the GPU crypto basket to the AI basket? And the answer is yes, that is basically what they're doing. But the fact is the GPU bubble has already popped, so they would be wise to at least bet on another bubble, even if that bubble could cause them trouble too. But then now we have to talk about the big red elephant in the room. All right, so Nvidia is restricting supply of graphics cards to artificially keep their prices high in a down market. Maybe that's good business, but is it still not a chance for AMD to exploit this and take market share when Nvidia is practically just begging them to? Well, let me put this quote on screen about Navi 32. A person at AMD who I've trusted for a very long time tells me that right now they have a mountain of Navi 32 supply that they've been hoarding for months while they wait for RDNA 2 to sell out. The only thing this person is unsure about is if they're going to bother releasing all of that at once, or if they're going to keep making it after the initial launch. Like, if they should really bother to do anything different than what Nvidia's doing, right? I mean, the market is down. If it's down, is it really smart for AMD to do the opposite of Nvidia? Maybe they're making the right decision and then AMD should just do the same thing. But I guess, I don't know. What I would say right now, though, is either way, Navi 32, like I've leaked exclusively before and saying again, will be announced at Gamescom. And actually what's new today is I've heard that they may actually launch the RX 7800 and 7700 at Gamescom. And if they don't, it'll probably just be like a week or so after that. There's not going to be this long trail between announcement and launch. Navi 32 is done. It's made. It's waiting to launch. They may just do a giant release at Gamescom while Nvidia's constricting supply. But that's just a short-term bit of advice for people looking to buy a graphics card in the next month or so. What about this holiday season? Is there any chance AMD could up production or keep up production to try to take market share while Nvidia's limiting supply during the holiday season? Well, I have to be honest, this is starting to feel a bit like deja vu to me, as I put out a very similar leak almost exactly 2 years ago about Nvidia limiting Ampere production when those prices finally started to go down a little bit. And back then I was talking about how AMD could maybe produce extra Navi 23 and make up the difference. And I think they actually did back then, which, to be fair, if you go back and look at GPU pricing analysis from the time, you can see that while prices were still pretty dang bad, the AMD side was correcting much quicker, especially in the low end, and that is because AMD did, and I'm telling you this, produce a ton of Navi 23 when Nvidia constrained production before. But well, this is the part of the video where I was going to do a bunch of analysis of the numbers from back then and look at their earnings, but I'm going to just tell you what my opinion is. My opinion is the numbers from back then till now suggest that AMD took a blip of market share during the holiday season in 2021, but it didn't effectively move the needle that much once Nvidia started up production and things went where they went in 2022. So I have to admit, I can't help but look at what happened before and how it's so similar to now and go, well, RX 6600s are so cheap because they made too many of them. I'm not sure AMD's conclusion from what happened a couple years ago is that that really was the right business decision for them. And unfortunately, yeah, that's kind of the sentiment I'm getting from people at AMD. Now, for this part, I'm not going to put a bunch of quotes on screen because it doesn't really make sense. I'm just going to tell you the impression I get from talking to people at AMD and talking to people that work with people at AMD. The impression I get is that AMD doesn't really feel like there's any benefit in them getting more than 40% GPU market share right now. Basically, they are already biting off as much as they can chew in server. Capacity is limited at TSMC, and they think server is much more important. And while they wouldn't mind getting to maybe, 35 to 40% market share, which they're not at yet, but they wouldn't mind getting there, they don't want to be number one, and that explains a lot of their decision-making. I am just getting the impression, from what I hear from people at AMD and the people they work with, that they do not even want to be number one right now because they're still building up their company, and the second they get to number one in any department, everyone will have higher expectations of them. There's going to be even more logistical nightmares that they will be blamed for, and it's setting them up to be regarded as the bad guy if they're not overly generous while they have over 50% market share. For whatever reason, Nvidia can just get away with doing whatever the hell they want, and people just go, yeah, whatever, you can bribe people to do bullshit 4060 and 4060 Ti reviews before other people are allowed to review it, but we won't say it's bad because you're Nvidia and we expect you to be bad. I don't know. It took a long time for Nvidia to kind of get this it's okay to be bad mindshare they seem to have right now. AMD doesn't think they will have that. And so what I basically am hearing is that Radeon, again, while they would like to chip off little bits of market share here and there, that really the main point of their GPU division right now is to not lose more than getting below 20% or 30% market share and just keep things humming along while they have the R&D in their GPU division to make console chips and APUs and laptops really good. And then if with RDNA 4 or RDNA 5 they have an absolutely mind-blowing advantage, then they will maybe go for trying to get to 50% market share. But that's years from now, and AMD just doesn't want to get there in the short term. Which, look, AMD, I can totally understand why you might think it's not a good business decision to bet more than the necessary TSMC capacity on GPU when data center is white hot and GPU's quite down versus where it was over the past few years. I get it. I totally do. And I totally get why you wouldn't go for more than you think you can easily get. But I also do think that this opportunity this holiday season is different than where it was in 2021. You know, in 2021, Nvidia, despite basically lying about the price of their graphics cards, did lie about the price of their graphics cards. And I think a lot of people looked at it and went, well, I don't know, demand's high. There's nothing we can do. Right now, Nvidia isn't lying. They're saying we think the 80 series should be $1,200 fucking dollars, and that the 70 series should be, well, it should be a cut down mid-range card for $600, and we're gonna sell you 8 GB cards still for $400 or more. Tough shit, everybody. And I think that really has burned a lot of people. And while your launch of RDNA 3 AMD wasn't flawless, I can't help but go that I think there's a lot of people willing to take you when Nvidia's charging this much for their cards compared to a couple of years ago. And also a couple of years ago, Nvidia may have halted production for like 3 weeks, but they started it again. Right now, it seems like Nvidia is just betting the farm on trickling out supply for months. And this is a bigger opening. They're basically saying you can go for market share if you want to because we think AI is more important. And right now, before MI 300's out, you got this chance to make extra cards and just be that extra bit more aggressive. I really do think if, for example, the 7800 is $500, the 7700 is $400, that those two cards, just that extra 10% cheaper than what I think it's going to, or what they think the original plan was, that's all it would take to take some market share in a time where Nvidia's letting you do it. And it just, this time doesn't come around every year. This isn't a thing you're always presented with. So, look, I'm not one of those naive people that thinks a 7900 XT should be $500 or something. But it was $750. If the 7800 was $500 for a 16 GB card, if the 7700 was competing directly in price with the 8 GB 4060 Ti, I don't know. Nvidia's leaving the door wide open. And this is a real opportunity that is different from where it was 2 years ago and probably won't come again that often. But heck, I know it. I think you're probably just going to do $550 and $450. I've already leaked those prices multiple times, but I just think we should all be hoping there that you just go for that extra 10% in aggressiveness and make a little extra volume, because this really is a rare opportunity, AMD.